Have you ever traveled through time? We do it every day.
Asgardia is a country with a population of more than 1 million people from more than 200 countries on Earth. Asgardia gives everyone equal opportunities, no matter what their earthly status is.
It is possible to create and live in the future right now. Are you ready? Forward progress is the solution to the entire human race. Our mission is to bridge new horizons. In Asgardia, there is no limit to the universal development in the fields of technology, finance, and arts. Asgardia is a new space and digital economy which creates opportunities for the global economy. We deliver innovations. Do you want to get on board with us? We are developing various kinds of digital businesses, attracting them to the Asgardia platform that can be backed by the means of our umbrella, i.e. franchising of the Asgardia brand. We can not only attract investments into space programs from prominent institutional investors, but also affordable amounts from the citizens of Asgardia. We comprise of more than 1 million people.
Asgardia is a chance to realize one's dream. This is a dream-driven space nation. Asgardia is a chance to belong to a community of free-thinking enthusiasts, goal-driven dreamers, and fearless innovators, theorists, and scientists.
We are the first space nation. One humanity, one unity.
Asgardia.
We are creating
the future.
We're in springtime too, but it's very cloudy here.
Hey, Ferda, you been getting rain there in Turkey, or has that mostly been down in the Middle East?
No, not like that, but we have.
Yep, it's a good thing I didn't take Qatar Air.
Like old Istanbul, let me say, the climate change is showing its face. In Istanbul, in 10 years back ahead, we were having that kind of storms and unexpected rain that will block the underground system of the city, but now not that bad. I'm sorry for them. Yes, they wanted it, they planted it, but it's not easy to deal with it.
Well, when you go changing the putting in a big city down there like that, and putting in farming around there, which they've been able to do, that's going to change weather patterns. Plus, they like to seed their clouds.
No, the problem is,
I saw a report where they said that they had overseeded, and that's what caused it.
I know, but the problem is they need to change all underground construction.
Oh.
Yes,
well,
that's the problem.
I mean, you know, because they're only used to like what they got in one day getting over an entire year.
Well, one of the problems when you're building a big city, you end up losing a lot of your drainage, because when you're building a city, you're compacting the soil, you're putting in concrete, you're flattening everything out, where before water was able to run off naturally into lakes and gullies. And even if it was an area that's not used to rain, like a desert region, there still were natural areas for water to go, where when you put in a city, water, the concrete's impermeable and those buildings are impermeable. So it just builds up and it ends up flooding simply because there's no place for the water to go.
Well, they don't have drainage anyway.
I just read in the chat that we are live now, I think.
Oh, good. I was waiting for someone to announce it.
Yeah, it was in the chat, but there's so many other messages from all other things. So
thank you, Jacob. Thank you very much. Well, in that case, I'll assume that we are live, and
Can I welcome you to the weekly question and answer session with the chair of the Parliament of Asgardia. My name is Peter Morn, and I'm the deputy chairman of the Parliament. And unfortunately, our chairman, Lembedopik, is on television at the moment, live, and therefore isn't able to be here tonight. But can I welcome you to Asgardia, especially if you're new to us? Asgardia is the first space nation and the first digital democracy. We are incredibly democratic. I've been involved in national politics in the United Kingdom for a long time, and I've seen nothing as open and as democratic as we have here in Asgardia. So welcome to that. And if after this meeting you decide that Asgardia is for you, and believe you me, it's actually for most people if you knew about it, then please feel free to join us as a resident. And then you can take part in all of our activities, and we'd love to have you here. We are friends, we're serious friends, but we remain friends before, during, and after any debate, where there is no such thing as party politics in Asgardia, only the desire to advance the cause of Asgardia. So we can't actually ask questions of our chair. Well, we could, but he's not here to answer them. And therefore, we'll just use the time for whatever we want, because anything can be raised here. There's nothing which is barred from discussion. We had an Asgardian event on Saturday, what we call an ALF, Asgardian Legislative Forum. So I think everybody's well talked out from Saturday, so we may find this as particularly quiet compared with our usual question and answer session. But as I always quote when I'm chairing these meetings, when Lambert is not here, he always has a number of points, and he'll say, I have 6 points. Here's 1 of 6, raises it. Here's 2 of 6. Well, I can tell you, I have absolutely no points at all, because Lambert isn't here. And although he briefed the meeting of the chairs of our committees a little bit earlier on one or two things he was going to say, then but he's not here to raise them now. So I'm not going to raise any specific points, but I am going to say that we have an opportunity to hear from one of our ministers who's here now. This is not a meeting for ministers, it's a meeting to ask questions of the chairman of Parliament. But Jakob is now going to enlighten us with his words of wisdom. You're on, Jakob. Here you go.
Oh, words of wisdom, that's maybe too much to ask. But I have 2 points, small, quick point and a bit longer one. The small quick point is that I'm very happy because a few days ago I got my new wheelchair. And I have been waiting for that since last year, January, because then it was ordered. So I've been waiting for it for quite some time, and it's a great one. You can't really see it, but I'm currently lying completely flat, and I'm watching up because the laptop and the screen and everything is on a table, and I'm sort of lying under the table. So I'm a bit of a strange position, but I'm very happy with it. So I just wanted to tell that. Okay, and then the serious stuff. We have had some sessions about the parliamentary document management. There is a standard about it. I'm Minister of Manufacturing, and I'm also the chair of the Asgardia Institute of Standards, which contains quite a few standards, and one of them is about parliamentary document management. And that standard is still not still draft. It's still not definitive, because we still could discuss about it and make some changes and so on. One of the things that was added recently is sponsors, because we had a discussion about when we have legislation brought up, and we want to bring them to the voting, to the discussions during an ALF, then it can be done that, for example, 30 people from Parliament are the sponsors for a new legislation, for a new act proposal. But also, for example, the chair of parliament could be the sponsor. So there's multiple ways of doing that. But we had a discussion, and I added this 30. In the previous version, it was not there because I thought that we sort of abolished that rule a while ago. But somebody pointed to me that it's still in the Act of Acts, so it still can be done. But I've not seen it used that much in the past. We also talked about the PASS system, which is the online system in which those act proposals and other documents can be stored and are administrated. And there's a file share behind it, and I also have a classified file share behind it for if we have documents regarding legislation that are not public. So those things are now in place, and there's a website for Asgardia Pass and so on. And we are officially sort of setting it up. And the next step is trying to find a few people that would like to be the PDC, the Parliamentary Document Committee, the people that are maintaining a pass, that is to say, putting documents in and preparing things for meetings and for voting and so on. And that's the idea. And the documents will be in the system, and pass is the list of the documents and the list of the things that Parliament is talking about. And that was my last thing that I would like to say is, the question is, we should be looking for a group of people that would like to be this PDC. There are a few people involved in this, and we need one or two or three people that would like to do this administration. And it's not that much work, but we do need to appoint one or two or three people for that. So that's my. I can show the stuff, but I think I showed it before, the standard and everything and the picture and so on, and the flow chart. So I think most of the story is a known story, but I just wanted to say this. Okay, that was my story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Ricky Sickles.
Yeah, anything that's going in the AIS like that, it needs to go through Parliament to be voted on, is what I'm saying, because that is a ministerial document. It's not a parliamentary document at this point. And I just have a lot of concerns about the future when it comes to this document, the way it's currently set up, because it's morphed into something more than what it was intended. I've mentioned this before, and I will mention it many more times, probably. But there's the setup. I really don't agree with. On the 30 signatures, Limpet said sometime back that wasn't required anymore, even though I know it's in the Act of Acts, so it's supposed to have been a change made to that. Somehow or other, it got by the wayside. And I just have a lot of concerns, because originally the AIS was only supposed to deal with manufacturing and not every other aspect. Now, people can disagree or they can agree, but that's how it was set up originally. And it is morphed into something that government has more control of than what Parliament does. And Parliament is we're the ones that do the laws. We're the ones that vote on the laws. Now, yes, we get input from the ministers, because naturally they're the ones that's going to have to make the regulations and everything. But that's my concern, and I voiced it more than once, and I'll continue to voice it until it's actually discussed in those terms, because like I said, it's a ministerial governmental document and not a parliamentary document. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. And we discussed this to a degree last week, and certainly the Chairman of Parliament and myself are firmly of the view that the 30 signatures option is vital, because the sovereignty of Parliament is supreme, and it is the Parliament that runs, as it were, the government. Although the government's made up of ministers, ultimately the power lies with the Parliament. So we need that 30 signatures option so that the Parliament does have the overall control. But it is very much a fallback position as far as we are concerned. And I know that what your concern is, Ricky, and you have voiced it before, and you're great for overseeing it. And no doubt you'll raise it with us whenever you think that it's gone out of kilter and it's not where it should be. So thank you for that. But we are very much aware of it and of your view, which is one we share. Certainly in the chairmanship and vice chairmanship of the Parliament. Jakob.
Yeah, maybe allow me to react on that. First, it is very good to have concerns and to discuss about it. So I would very much like to discuss, Ricky, maybe not here and now, but about the things that he is concerned about. And I would like to try to get rid of those concerns, because it is not meant that way. A standard is not a law. The law says that you should, that people at Asgardia should do things in a certain way. A law is something that says you should do this, and if not, then like that, and that's a law style. A standard is a sort of an agreement on what is the most efficient way of doing things and of collaborating on standardizing things. It is not that the two complement each other. The two are very different. And AIS, the Asgardia Institute of Standards, has procedures in them, and the procedures are on the site, and they define on how, for example, you can change a standard, and there are procedures for that, and you can join a committee that discusses those changes, and then we can make a new version. It's all documented on the site, but it's not something that you have to vote on in Parliament, because it's not an act. It is really something quite different, and it's also for the whole of Asgardia. It was indeed, as you said, it was created by me as the Minister of Manufacturing, because I really need standardization within manufacturing, but we can also use standardization in other places. Like, for example, there's a standard on the Asgardian calendar. And there's a standard on information security, and about business registration, and about languages, and so on. And a practical thing is, it says, for example, in languages, that in the Constitution, it says there should be 12 languages, and it sort of halfly explains that those are the 12 most used languages, but the list is never mentioned anywhere. And that's why I created a standard on the default languages, and the standard was even recently extended a bit to also include sign language and braille for the blind people and people who are hard of hearing and hard of sight. How you say that? Those people have also sort of language, and it would be good to define those things. And it is not that, it doesn't say as an act, as a law, that we should use sign language all the time, but the standard says, okay, if we are to be using sign language, then these are the 3 sign languages that are mostly used, and we propose that you use this one first as the default, and then the other 2 as sort of backups or so, just to make things more convenient, to make it more standardized. So they complement each other. It is not something that we need to vote upon because it says, okay, we should do this and so on. And it also doesn't really give me as minister extra power or so. It is not meant like that. It's meant to make things more easy and more standardized, and so that we can collaborate better.
Okay, thank you, Jakob. I think it demonstrates this, that we are a very young institution. We are learning as we go along. But the one thing that, and I keep emphasizing it, the one thing is that if there ever is a conflict, and we don't deal in conflicts really in Asgardia, if there ever is a conflict, Parliament rules supreme. As long as we keep that in mind, we'll be okay. John Fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree that what I like his explanation of how the standards work, and the fact I didn't know that you could actually go on there and get on a committee and change the standard, and there was a process. I guess I didn't read the site good enough, but yeah. So that really kind of alleviates any fears that I might have had. And uh, we have this in other countries too, in other governments. There's a system of standardization, and basically that's what he's saying is it's a system of standardization, and so you can be involved. Parliament can be involved and just go on the website, become part of the committee, whatever, and we can be involved according to what he just said. So as far as figuring out what those standards are or changing the standard or whatever, I think that's a good thing. So yeah, that helped me out a lot the way he explained it. The other thing, um, he was talking about 30 plus signatures, and what it did with the 30 plus signatures is before we thought we had to have 30 plus signatures in order to advance forward with a bill, which technically, according to the Act on Acts, we're supposed to call it a bill, not an act. But uh, but but we all decided to call it an act for uniformity, which is fine. But before we used to think that we had to have 30 signatures before we advanced an act. Well, then they changed it, they tweaked it. Now the 30 plus signatures is just another avenue or another way of getting a act through to Parliament. There's actually other process. There's like I think maybe 5 or 6 different methods you can use to get an act through now. So and any one of those methods will work. So and 30 plus signatures is just one of the methods to do it. So in other words, if you get an act that has 30 or more signatures on it, then the parliament chairman has to accept it as a legitimate act, and according to the Act on Acts, he's supposed to put it on the roster for us to vote on or on the agenda. So and that's that's one method, but there's also other methods. And then government can, I think one's government, one is the court can actually advance an act forward. I think the HON can advance one forward. Um, uh, and of course, the parliament chairman can advance one forward if he decides that one needs to go forward. There's other ways, there's other methods. So yeah, it's just an additional method now.
It is, but it's a safeguard. It's a safeguard, John.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're going to have a battle now because here's Ricky.
I agree that there needs to be standards, but I still feel that those standards being included in the AIS is inappropriate. Like I said, it was originally meant just to be for manufacturing standards. On the 30 plus signatures, yeah, on some things, it would be easy to get. On others, not so much so. Because I've seen instances where when the 30 signature deal was being followed continually, there was some good acts that were out there that would have been really beneficial, and they just couldn't garner the 30 signatures because we're a large group, yes, and everyone has their own agenda, and I'm going to put it that way. A lot of people have their own agendas, and maybe that particular piece of legislation would hamper what they wanted to do, or something else. And my biggest fear is that since it is a government document, not a parliament document, that sometime down the line, after all of us are long gone, they start changing things, and it makes it harder for good legislation to go forward. And it makes it harder for Parliament to do their job. And the government would have more of a say as to what happens in Asgardia rather than the Parliament. You know, you see this happening in the U.S. right now between government and Congress. You know, uh, government's pretty well doing whatever they want, and Congress really doesn't have the power to stop it, the House or the Senate. And I don't want to see that happen to Asgardia. We're supposed to get away from Earth type politics, and I see the current form of the AIS as moving us closer to Earth type politics. You know, you can get all the nice explanations you want about things, and that's fine and well, but I believe and I feel that all these extra standards, over and above the manufacturing, should be in control of Parliament, not the government. That's the last I'm going to say on it.
Yeah.
What you all do is up to you.
Thank you, Ricky. But in fact, ultimately, the power does lie with Parliament, because Parliament makes the laws. And the good thing is that if anybody wants an act to lay before Parliament, and only Parliament can pass that. And if anyone wants to lay it before Parliament, all you have to do is petition the chairman of Parliament, and if he considers it appropriate for discussion and enactment, he will put it forward himself. But if you come up against the deadlock, then the 30 signatures becomes appropriate, but because it's a safeguard. It's not the only way of generating bills or acts to go before Parliament. It's just one of the ways, and it's a safeguard. And if the government steps out of line, Parliament can change the laws. So I don't think we need to really worry, but we do need to keep our eye on it. And Ricky will be doing that for us and with us. So I think we've considered that, but you don't have to worry. Parliament is supreme, and we will make the laws, or we will revoke the laws. We will make the laws of Asgardia, and it isn't like the US, I hope, and it isn't even like the United Kingdom Parliament. This is Asgardia. So well done for raising it again, Ricky. But I think we don't need to worry unduly. Not as long as we have a chairman of Parliament like we have and a deputy chair like we have. Bridget.
Yes, I was thinking a lot about what people were saying about the 30 signature thing. And here's my take. People can argue with me as they wish. When it comes to certain legislation, for example, the alteration of wording for one or some minor changes to one, I honest to Gaia do not think that 30 should be absolutely required. If we're doing a major change that is going to heavily affect Asgardia's laws and legislatures, then absolutely, especially if we're changing the Constitution itself, absolutely 30 signatures should be required. But for example, say someone put in a proposal to have an event started. Why should there be a full 30 signatures if they can just get like 10 to 15? as Rick said, there have been many, many times where damn good proposals were put out, that these proposals were things that would really help and move things along, but they got maybe 8, maybe 10, because we have a lot of very active parliamentarians, and then we have parliamentarians that more or less sit there. They attend meetings, but they don't say anything. If they read proposals, they certainly do not sign them. I thought one of the reasons for pass was that people could get into proposals more quickly so that they could read through them and get their signatures. And with this in mind, well, again, doing major changes such as changes to the Constitution or major changes to a law that would severely affect all of Asgardia, yeah, that should probably get 30 signatures. I think we may want to consider altering the Act of Acts where a certain type of law requires a minimum of 30, or alterations, where others could have a minimum of 10 to 15, just for expediency to get things on the vote and to get certain work done. But again, that is simply my opinion. And people, of course, could argue for it or against it as they so wish. But that is simply my observation from being with Asgardia since 2018 in the very first parliament. And I know we have a lot of incumbents here that were here at the time that may have observed the same thing. And I also do believe that by lowering it, it'll be easier for new parliamentarians as well to get their work out there, because we have a lot of brilliant young men and women with excellent minds whom I honestly believe could get more stuff out there if it wasn't so daunting. Again, personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. What we've got to keep in mind, though, is that if you're on a committee and your committee wants to put a bill forward, then they can do that. You do not have to have 30 signatures. That is simply one of the ways that legislation can be inspired. You do not have to have 30 signatures. You can put your bill forward. The chairman of Parliament will include it in a legislative forum and it can be debated. And you don't have to have 30, 10, 5 or 150 signatures. It is only 30 signatures is one of the ways that legislation can be started. So if your committee wanted to put something forward and it was blocked by the chairman of Parliament, then constitutionally 30 people could get together and say, hey, chairman, you aren't doing that. We're having this debated, and that would get it in. But it's only a safeguard. It's not the only way. In fact, very rarely is legislation going to be inspired by 30 signatures, although it can be. So I don't think you have to worry about the actual numbers, Bridget. It's a safeguard, and 30 is a safe number because a couple of people getting together can't make trouble. 30 getting together means there's trouble there and it's being dealt with. John Fine.
Yes, thank you, Peter, for explaining that very elegantly. Yes, because people are, when I hear them talking about the 30 plus singers, I'm like, okay, they're still thinking the old way. But go back and read Act on Acts. It's just a method now. It's just a method. It's not a requirement. It's just one, like Peter says, it's a safeguard. That way, let's say your committee submits a document and the parliament chairman says, no, we're not putting that on the agenda. Okay, fine. You get 30 people together, get them to sign the document, the very thing you're trying to put through, and it has to go on the agenda according to the Constitution through the 30 plus signature avenue. All right. It's a safeguard. It's a way in case you get stopped one way, you can do it another way. There's other ways you can do it too. There's like 5 or 6 in there now. Different ways you can get legislation on the agenda. So, and they're just methods of getting it on there. The best way, of course, is through the committee. That usually runs through the process the fastest. committee legislation usually does. Everything that I got passed was all committee legislation. None of it was any other type of legislation. It was all done through the committee. So, and most of the legislation that we've passed in Parliament has been committee legislation. So, and that system seems to work pretty good. And I also say that the Constitution specifically says the legislation will be worked on by Parliament and government together. In other words, we're supposed to have synergy between the two, the Parliament and government. And of course, we do this, working through our minister. At least, the committees do. I don't know about individuals, but committees work through their minister to ensure that the government's being represented when they're writing a piece of legislation. And we're supposed to have that type of collaboration. And the Constitution says that too. So, and that's only to ensure that everybody's voice gets heard. That's why they do it that way. That's the reason why they made it to where you had multiple ways of getting a piece of legislation on the Parliament agenda other than just 30 signatures, so that every voice gets heard. So something doesn't just get buried, and that's it. That's the end of it. There's several ways you can get it pushed through to actually be put on Parliament floor for a vote, and or debated. So it starts with a debate, and then it goes. And the first debate has to be a vote. So, and then they'll either vote yay or nay. So, and if everybody likes it, enough people like it, then it goes to the second. And that's another great method that we put in there. It actually go through the 3 stages of vote before it actually becomes a decree, before it gets sent to the HON to become a decree. Then the HON still has to approve it in order to make a decree. So there's a lot of safeguards in our law to ensure that we have good laws, and that everybody's voice gets heard. So, yeah, I like the way the system's set up now. I think it's great. It's just, I think that most of the confusion comes when people don't understand it completely. But it's way better than anything that any other government's got going on. Because, like Ricky said, they can like in the United States, you can actually buy your way into passing a law. You have enough money, you can get a law passed with that money. You can, it's very, they can cheat in order to get a law passed, and sometimes they can actually stop the powers of Congress. Now, Congress does have ways that they can stop that. They and because I've just studied law for the last 6 or 7 years, and there are ways that they can stop that. It's just Congress have gotten where they don't care, and they've basically given up that authority to special, other groups. And we don't need to do that in Asgardia. And Ricky's right about that we really haven't with the system that we currently have, because there's all kinds of safeguards to ensure that doesn't happen. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Jakob, got your hand up again.
Yeah, sorry, I keep coming back. Excuse me. I quickly would like to show 2 things. If you would allow me to present my screen, then I can show the Act on Acts, because it's quite clear in there. Let me see, where is my sharing button there? Sorry. This is it. This is the Act on Acts. Do you see my thing appearing?
Yes.
Very good. This is on the Asgardia side. And if you look for the documents and you look for Decree 76, it was this version was accepted via Decree 76, and it has had quite a few versions. You can see here that this is the latest version, which was accepted in 2023, in year 7. So that's quite recent. And if you say, okay, find 30, then you go to the part where it says the right to submit a legislative proposal to Parliament is limited to, and there's a list of A to F. So 6, what is it? Yeah, 6 ways of doing that. And one of them is having a group of 30 more of members of Parliament. But another one is, for example, the chair of Parliament. And as long as I have been here at Asgardia, I've been a minister now for 2 years or so, and I've been in Parliament before that for 2 years or so. As long as I've been here, I have never seen it happening that we really needed the 30 signatures and that it was counted and it was checked and so on. But as far as I know, all the time that I was there, it was always the chair of Parliament that was the sponsor. And this list of A to F, those are the sponsors. So it can, of course, for example, also be head of nation that is a sponsor. It is just there. And it is not only here, this is the right to submit a thing. But if you go on searching, there's another one over there, the right to submit an amendment to something. There's the same list again. And again, if you search on, the right to an annulment, so to get rid of an act, there's the same list again. So it is in there. Yeah. Okay. And just stopping the share, and I would quickly like also to show something else. But then another. Where is my browser? This is my browser, I think. Yeah. You now see a browser with the Asgardia Institute of Standards. True?
Yes.
Okay, very good. This is the standards, and you go to there's procedures over here, and procedures, among others, say okay, the creation or modification of a standard, and this is what you should do. It's a bit small now. You should read it later, but there's the standards, and one of the standards is default languages. That was one that was recently changed. Just to have a quick look. Now, yeah, this is a bit small. Maybe I can make it a bit larger. Yes, I can. Okay, so now I go a bit down. This is the standard about default languages. And it says there, blah, 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 blah. When using sign language, a bit like this. Okay, when using sign languages, so a recommendatory standard is to provide facilities for deaf and hard of hearing people. And for example, via blah, 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 or via sign language. When using sign language, a recommendatory standard is to use international sign. So, and then with the manual alphabet and blah, blah. So it doesn't say we should all use international sign, because then it would have been an act. This is not an act, this is a standard. This says, okay, if you use sign language in the context of Asgardia, then please use international sign. And if you are not that good at it, whatever, then it's also okay to use American Sign Language or British Sign Language. Yeah. And if you think, if you yourself are deaf or hard of hearing or so, and you know a lot about this, then please say so, because I'm not. I just got this information for people that know about it. And people like, for example, Jason, who is hard of hearing. So he told me these things, and there were a few other people. So I think Bridget also told me about it. I'm not even sure anymore. There were a few people that said, okay, this is good and this is good and so on. And that way we have a standard. So it is not an act, not something that Parliament has to vote about, but it's just a thing to make it more convenient. Yeah, so that's what these standards are for. Okay, let's use international sign. It's like that. It's not about power or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And it also says in the wording that these are recommendations.
Yeah.
As you rightly said, they're not laws, they're recommendations. So thank you for the clarification, Jakob. Further.
Thank you very much. I also seen that 5% is the lowest minimum level of the acts legislations to be proposed. So that's giving us like 15% at the minimum. And these kind of rules are good for conflict times when we are disagreeing with each other. So it's important for us to have them. When we are at the same page, there is no problem. But when we are not at the same page, these are needed, in my opinion. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you further. John Fine wants to get back on because he's not been speaking very much tonight. Not for the last 5 minutes anyway. John.
You always make me feel so special. Anyway, I wanted to ask Jacob, and anybody can be a part of the AIS system, right? They just have to go in there and submit a request or whatever. Is that a true statement?
Sorry, my microphone was off. Yes, it is. It is. The procedures are on the site, so you can read all about it. No problem. And the idea is that if you want to change an existing standard, or if you want to create a new standard, you have a group around you and you start writing. And there's a template for creating a standard. It's all on the site. And you start that, and then you start discussing, and then when you find that this is okay, then you go and find another group, which could be the establishment committee. So that's a group of people that can say, okay, we have checked this against, for example, the Constitution and the Act on Acts and a few other things. So there is no conflicts in existing things. And then, so you have two groups, one of the groups that is writing it and one of the groups that is checking it. And if both do agree, then we can put it to the administration of the site of the AIS, and we can put it on. And then if later on somebody else disagrees or has extra input or whatever, it's all open. Everything is on there, and even the whole administration of everything that has happened so far, all the steps that have been done in the Asgardia Institute of Standards, everything is documented. Everything is already on the site. So there's no secrecy or so. Everything is open.
Okay, thanks, Jacob. Right, are we all happy? Can I mention that next week we have a presentation from Cheryl, one of our other ministers, again also a former parliamentarian, and that's very much to be looked forward to. So can you please try and make sure you don't miss the Q&A with the Chairman of Parliament a week from tonight. It's going to be very much worthwhile watching, and I think we'll all enjoy it. Anybody got any other issues to raise? Well, we've had a good discussion, and I think those who are watching from outside of Asgardia will have seen that it can be quite lively, but always well controlled, always good spirited, and always towards a common aim. So thank you all who have been here with us tonight. You were very, very welcome. I hope we will see you again soon, and I hope we may see an application from you to become a resident. And if you need any further information before then please let us know. So with that, we've when we get down to 11 people on the online, we'll close it down. But in the meantime, hoo-hoo, see you soon. Have a lovely week, and keep promoting the interests of Asgardia. It's what we're all here for.
Oh,
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 see you
Asgardia.
later.
Good night, everybody.
Hello, everybody.